Tonight I'm going to tell you something I have never said out loud, something I should have confessed the moment I realized the house was listening, because that's the first rule you learn too late. Walls don't just have ears, sometimes they have memory, and memory is worse. I bought the house because it was cheap, because in America cheap means opportunity if you're desperate enough, and I was desperate enough to believe peeling paint and a dead-end street in suburban Ohio could be the beginning of something instead of the end. The realtor didn't lie. She just didn't look me in the eyes when she handed over the keys, and I told myself that was guilt about commission, not warning. The first night felt ordinary in the way empty houses always do, breathing through vents, ticking behind drywall, cooling pipes whispering like distant conversations you almost understand. I slept on a bare mattress with a lamp on because silence felt too thick, and at exactly 2:17 a.m. I woke to footsteps in the hallway, measured, deliberate, heel to toe like someone pacing outside a hospital room. I told myself it was wood settling, told myself my brain was misfiring in unfamiliar darkness, but when the steps stopped beside my door and I felt the weight of attention pressing through the wood, I understood that imagination doesn't hold its breath the way I did. I opened the door and the hallway was empty, moonlight washing over scratched paint I hadn't noticed before, long vertical gouges along the wall as if someone had dragged their fingers while walking, or while being dragged, and in the morning sunlight they looked old, layered, repeated, not damage but record. The neighbor across the street watched me too long when he asked if I'd moved into the Harlow place, and when I said yes he just said, "Huh," in a tone that sounded like a door closing. The second night, the footsteps came again at 2:17, faster this time, pacing back and forth with agitation, and when I opened my bedroom door mid-stride the sound continued behind me, through me, into the bathroom where the mirror fogged from nothing and words appeared in streaked condensation. "You're in my room," written from the inside of the glass as if someone trapped behind it needed me to understand the boundary I had crossed. I searched the property records the next day and found a teenage girl's obituary, vague cause of death, closed service, 3 owners in 5 years but no clean sales, just transfers like the house moved through hands the way a burden does. That night I stayed awake on the couch with a shotgun beside me because fear in this country is often measured in ammunition, and at 2:17 I heard running upstairs, not pacing but sprinting, the unmistakable sound of a body desperate to reach something, then the creak of my bedroom door and the violent compression of mattress springs as if someone had thrown themselves onto it, and when I went up the bed bore a deep impression that slowly rose as though an invisible weight had just stood. The air smelled sterile then, metallic and sharp, the scent of hospitals and plastic tubing, and I heard a girl's voice, small and confused, calling for her mother in a tone that wasn't fear but disorientation, like someone waking from anesthesia into a room that no longer made sense. I began recording audio after that, convinced proof would anchor me to sanity, but when I played it back there were 2 sets of footsteps before I had moved, and breathing close to the microphone whispering my name, Daniel, though I had never spoken it aloud, and that was when I realized the house didn't need introductions. The attic held dust thick enough to preserve history, and in the center of circular barefoot prints lay a hospital bracelet bearing the same last name as the obituary. When I touched it, every door in the house slammed in sequence, lights burst, and whispers layered over one another in overlapping pleas. "Don't leave me, you promised, why didn't you stay?" Until the attic door sealed shut and I felt small arms wrap around my back, a cold cheek pressing between my shoulder blades as a trembling voice called me Dad. I told her I wasn't, but she began to cry in a way that made denial feel cruel, not defensive, sobbing about machines and waiting and time stretching wrong, repeating waited and waited and waited until the word fractured into something inhuman. The neighbor finally told me the father had converted the basement into a care room after the hospital ended treatment, that the girl never woke up right, that she lost her sense of time, and that one day authorities found only her body in the house while the father was gone, never located, as if the structure had absorbed him. I opened the basement at exactly 2:17 because by then I understood resistance was a form of invitation, and downstairs the air pulsed faint blue like dormant monitors breathing, the equipment unplugged yet humming, the bed bolted to the floor with fresh indentations in sheets that dipped as though someone sat up to greet me. She asked if I had come back, and I said no, but she answered that I had stayed, and all the walls filled with scratches counting days in frantic vertical lines, the deepest one carved with "he left," and when her cold fingers closed around my wrist I felt not malice but terror of abandonment, the kind that warps love into confinement. She doesn't trap people, she replaces them, slowly overlaying presence upon presence until the previous occupant becomes the next echo in the hallway, the next set of steps at 2:17, and I understood then that the father never disappeared. He stayed until he blurred into the house's memory, pacing, breathing, waiting, part of the system that comforted her by never leaving again. The moment I said I remembered her, the lights went out and upstairs I heard my own footsteps crossing the hallway while I stood frozen in the basement, heel to toe in perfect rhythm, and she squeezed my hand in relief because now the house knew my name too. Time after that lost its clean edges. Mornings arrived but felt rehearsed, neighbors avoided my gaze, and sometimes I'd see myself in reflections moving a half-second behind, like the house buffering my existence. Visitors came rarely, delivery drivers, a utility inspector once, and none stayed long because at 2:17 something always escorted them gently but firmly toward the door, while I remained downstairs listening to my own voice pacing above. The house doesn't hate, it preserves. It cannot tolerate departure because departure is how she was broken, machines shutting down, father stepping out for air that lasted forever, and so it learned to solve abandonment by erasing it. I don't remember the exact day I stopped trying to leave. Attempts blur into static, into standing on the lawn with keys in hand while footsteps circle inside calling me back with the soft certainty of belonging. Now I watch myself each night at 2:17 walking the corridor, tracing the scratches, adding one more line to the wall, and I feel her small hand in mine as she whispers that this time no one is leaving, this time the house will keep us safe from the cruelty of goodbye, and somewhere deep in the structure, beneath floorboards and wiring and the faint hum of machines that have no power source, the memory of who I was continues pacing, heel to toe, teaching the walls my name so thoroughly that even if the front door stood open forever, I would never truly step outside again.